The 10th order of life, Animalia. Animal literally means something that can move itself around. That was before it was understood that there are plants that can move on their own, like heliotropes or amoeba, things that you couldn't see at the time, or fungus that have the capacity to move by self-explosion of plasmodium. Nonetheless, we are in this category of Animalia, and we can move. And the name is more fitting than we think it is because we can do a lot more things, perhaps, than a plant or a fungus or an amoeba. And they're visible. They're clear players on a visual stage of the gospel, much more so than so many things that God made as part of his universe ecosystem are harder to see. Things we can see now by the virtue of advanced science, by virtue of microscopes. And so, to some extent, what we are is more obvious colors on God's stage, definite backdrop colors, curtains, and lighting. So, I want to give some examples. These things are in the service of the unisystem, and therefore in the service of God, whether they see it or not. It was shared with me, I was part of an audience, but my favorite Bible teacher that I know personally, John Cosmides, he did an amazing multi-week Sunday night overview of the Old Testament, and trying to give a good hypothesis for what God means about, he made all these things, and he said it was good. Well, my definition of good is faulty. Your definition of good is faulty. God's got a clear definition of good. And you and I have to try and torque the wrench on our head to get to a point where it's in alignment with God's definition of good. And one of the things he presented was these beautiful examples of nature videos where animals were taking the God-given skills they've been given and multiplying them. Pushing themselves to do things like invent tools or songs. And the notion became something, hope I'm quoting properly, the notion became something improving on what God gave it is the definition of good, or the definition of, he looked at it and said it was good. So these things, improving upon what God gave them, are blessing God, they're worshiping. I want to give 4 examples, kinds of animals that have been used as pictures of something within the Word of God. And so, which came first? Did God say, I'm planning his animal life out? Or did he say, I'm going to want to tell this story later? I'm going to want to tell this story, and this character is going to be so important, so perfect to telling this particular aspect of the story. I tend to think, as a story writer of some kind, that you're thinking about, okay, who's my villain going to be? Who's my hero going to be? And who's going to be the perfect character to express this thought? The reptiles. Reptiles are mostly cold-blooded, carnivorous as well as herbivorous. And the most important reptile, or seeming reptile, in the Word of God, of course, is the serpent, Satan, who's also the dragon. The definition for seraph is burning serpent. And it tends me to believe that the true form, if we were to see the true form of seraphs, it is something close to a dragon. That is, our myths of dragons have to do with the true form of seraphs. We know that angels appear in lots of forms for the benefit of us. They're probably not humanoid and anthropoid in a way that sets us at ease. Probably not. And they serve God. They're not really for us. They're for God's benefit. And God, at this point, the Father, is a virtually unimaginable creature unless you think in terms of character. We will see God, but our capacity to imagine what that is currently filtered through what we'd like God to look like. And our capacity for understanding angels is filtered through what we'd like God to look like. The curse that's given to Satan is you'll have to go around on your belly and eat the dust, meaning that he used to have legs. So what do you get when you take a serpent that can talk and add legs? I get a dragon. And so he's there as a representation of evil, representation of the fall, a representation of wickedness, a representation of lying. And humans in general have a pretty negative reaction to reptiles, or snakes in particular. Marine life. We're given a story about Jonah and the whale. It's a great fish. There are many theories about what that is. There was actually a recent story. Let me back this up. People have wondered if that's really possible, that a man could be in a fish's belly for X amount of days and then be spat out and be alive and just be missing hair and have yellow skin. There was a recent story in the 2000s where the same thing happened to a modern man, and it was virtually identical. And it was some kind of large whale shark kind of thing. These oceanic things serve the purpose of God. The original was a character in a story God wanted to tell, a real story. But God can use reality the way that a father can use a bedtime story. There's not a difference in God's capacity. He cast this great fish in this story. And then he cast this second great fish as a way to reiterate, as a way to show his truth for those that were doubters. I was always too inspired by the stories to ever wonder if they were real, and I like that intersection between faith and imagination. And it doesn't ever make me disbelieve. It makes me excited about what God can do and is doing. The lion has been placed upon this earth as a symbol of reality, royalty, and reality, a symbol of royalty. So he's the king of the land. Jesus calls himself the Lion of Judah. So the lion is here to give you an idea who Jesus is. The lion is never bothered. The lion is never stressed. The lion will defend when he has to, but the lion rules by presence. The lion fights and wins, but the lion rules by presence. Other animals defer to him not because of his size, but because of his internal sense of royalty. The eagle is the king of the sky, and the eagle flies higher than other birds and sees further than other birds. This is another picture of Jesus, another picture of his royalty among us here. Now, you've noticed I'm not calling human beings an animal. In certain genetic senses, we are. But in terms of the criteria we're using to describe here, it has elements that are different than other animals. You're meat. You're absolutely meat. And your body could be consumed at any time by a bear, by a jaguar, by the IRS. No, I'm sorry. I'm probably going to get myself in trouble. Nonetheless, you could be consumed. And you have animal instincts, and you have an animal kind of body. But I believe I'm going to prove that you are a unique hybrid creature that cannot be clearly classified as an animal, and certainly cannot be described in anything other than unique terms. So, animals, Animalia, the 10th order of life according to this numerical system. If I have blessed you, encouraged you, or equipped you, please like, subscribe, and comment.